So now that we understand what terms are and how to manage them effectively, let's talk about how terms end up on our case. There are many ways that terms get added to a case, but we will discuss 3 of the most common in this video. The first way that a term can be triggered on a case is through the diary page. Adding either a diary date or a diary text may trigger a term. If we think about this, it makes perfect sense. The terms are, in effect, the current state of where a case is in its lifetime. We are constantly updating the terms or the state as certain things occur. If we receive information that we add on the diary tab, it makes sense that an accompanying term should be triggered. An example could be a new trademark filing where we received filing details. We then enter those details on the diary tab. Patricia notes that we have entered the filing information and then rightly so triggers a term that says application number received, invoice application. The entering of this data triggered the appropriate next term that applies. The next way a term could be triggered is via other terms. You can set up terms to register other terms on different workflows when added. In short, we can have terms that trigger other terms. Let's say I have a workflow that deals with filing a patent. During the filing process, my organization wants a different department to deal with the graphical part of the submission. This department has several steps they need to follow, and so they require their own workflow. So here we have our patent filing workflow. And at a certain step, we activate the term for the other workflow. Note that you can see whether a term will trigger another term by the appearance of a small green arrow. You can hover your mouse over the icon to see which term will be connected. In our example, we will trigger the drawing workflow by double-clicking on term 120. Several term registration windows will appear, which I then confirm. The end result here is that I end up with 2 workflows registered on my case. If terms can connect other terms, then it makes sense that they should also be able to disconnect them as well. This is indeed possible. You can see whether a term is set to disconnect another term by looking at the red down arrow icon found on the workflow screen. Another way to add a term is to add it manually. First, you can add a term by clicking the Add button. When you do this, the Add Term window will appear. Type in the term number, or if not known, click on the search icon to find it. You can also add terms by using the term speed bar shown here. Simply type in the term number and click Apply. It is recommended to rather work through workflows and diary entries instead of adding terms manually. While we are talking about adding terms, let's touch on the free text workflow. Up to now, we've only been dealing with pre-built terms. If you look at all the terms used so far, the actions and status text already existed on each term. What happens if you want to register a term with action and status text that does not exist? Let's say an ad hoc term to print out a report as an example. Rather than build a term for every conceivable situation, you can rather use something we call a free text term. These are terms with generic action and status text that you can then amend at term registration. Free text terms are like any other terms you've dealt with, except that the status and action text needs to be defined by you. Because they are seen as normal terms, this also means they have term numbers and have their own workflow. Let's look at an example. I will now add a free text term to my case to print and send a report to client. So I will click Add, and because I don't yet know the term number, I will simply search for it using the workflow name as my criteria. Free text workflows fall under the workflow name free text. I do not need a deadline term, so I will not choose 4600. Instead, I will choose 4601. A new term registration window will appear as expected, but note the status and action text. It says free text as the entry. I can now click and edit this text and add my own status and action text. Once I'm happy with the details, I click OK to add it to my case. I have now added my very first free text term.